Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Rich. All right, it's Sunday, and you know what that means. What does it mean? Super Fun Sunday. All right, let's do this. Okay, I grabbed two books out. I had a request for the Tarzan book from the last Super Fun Sunday. I had shown about 6 or 7 of these Walter Foster How to Draw Disney books, and then I also have the Walter Foster Batman book. I would always suggest buy, you know, I always get any drawing books that look cool to me. So, I mean, I've never really been too discretionary on that, as long as it's affordable and the art looks cool inside to me. Because I figure, what does this book cost? Probably $8 or $10. And so this was $8.95. For $8.95, if I can learn even one or two things from it, it's such a value because, you could do a commission, or you could, and I'm not saying that you have to draw specifically what's in this, but all the stuff starts to affect other things that you've learned, and also, anything that you draw. Once you start to understand stuff better, drawing a really, really cool caricaturized, like, elephant, or, something like this, but it's all shape based. So if you haven't checked out my introduction into drawing superhero comics, I'd highly recommend you watch those first 2 videos. And as we get into the videos 3 and 4, my goal was to make the first introduction 6 episodes, and then we'll really get into drawing characters, and I won't sort of go backwards as far in terms of the understructure of things. But I really felt like it was unfair to start at where kind of these books start. Honestly, I flipped through this real quick just to get an idea of what this book is like. It's actually got a lot more information than the Little Mermaid book that I went through last weekend. But with that, they still skip a lot of steps, and they don't explain things that are incredibly important to actually pull off these drawings, other than copying them. And copying them is, I made the equivalent in a comment of me teaching you how to draw this and you not understanding what you've actually drawn is like handing you a fish and saying, here, you can have lunch today, but I'm never really going to teach you how to fish, where you can draw this character on your own, and when I leave, you're going to be able to come up with more versions of it. So if you think of it like that, you really need to learn to draw this stuff. It's not about copying every little drawing that's in the book. It's being able to understand the information and then start to move it around in space. And unfortunately, like I said, there's a limited amount of space in these books, and again, they only cost like $8 or $9. So, within that, I think that they do the best job that they can with the amount of space, and they squeezed in a lot more information. I like they show the color palette is pretty cool. Yeah, so, whenever you go in to draw a form, whether it's a head or a torso or a full figure, you're going to want to start to create space. And again, it's easy to just look at this and copy this drawing, but what did I show a million times in my introduction and drawing videos is the sphere. This is a sphere. It has form. There's a back plane that curves around this way. Like if this went around it like this arc, and it also, I'm trying to draw through the phone, but it also curves this way. You need to feel that sense of space everywhere, and then be able to turn that sense of, or that form in space. So again, I'm not going to be able to go too in depth through this book. Just suffice to say, watch my introduction and the drawing videos, and I will explain this stuff in more depth than they did. And like I mentioned too, me showing you how to draw Venom isn't about learning to draw 1 or 2 poses of Venom or his face. It's about understanding what makes a character like Venom or Batman a form that you can move around and draw at any angle, because that's way more important than singularity. You're like, Rich, I just want to learn to draw Batman. I'm going to teach you to draw Batman, but I'm going to teach you to fish too. Oh, I skipped a page. Yeah, see, like, even with the hair, they don't, like, it's like, da-da-da. Oh, and then you just put the hair on. Okay, his form is, the form of the hair is all cylinders. And so when it's swishing around in space, if you don't really understand how to have cylinders going in and out of space and curling around, and some stuff's coming forward and backwards, you're going to have really flat lines. You're not going to understand how to light it if you want to color it. So, it's nice that they show this stuff, but it probably would need more explanation. But again, I think what you'll see when you look at this book is it's got a lot of great starts, and a lot of things like food for thought. And it reminds me a bit of sort of what J. Scott Campbell does in his like the Danger Girl sketchbook, where you see him, and he's highly influenced by this stuff. There's no doubt about it. Jeff loves Disney. It's coming up with your character rule book for each character. Like if Tarzan squints, what do his eyes do? What do his nose do? What are the things that his eyes can't do? What are the things that his eyes aren't shaped like? Here you've got the two examples. Some things. Again, I'm going over all this stuff in the videos that I'm doing. I'll put the playlist in the link below so you can see it. But we'll build up to this, and then again, sort of the final steps is learning to sort of start lighting the shapes that are on the face, which is really important. Even if you're going to use pretty simple lighting, you want to be able to move like cast shadows and reflective light around on your figures a bit. But really, really cool poses. I think Tarzan was was a pretty groundbreaking movie in terms of characterization, and the animators that worked on Tarzan really, really worked hard coming up with how his body would move, and some of the pretty extraordinary things that he did in the movie. Was funny too. It's total coincidence because again, it was requested last week. Last night I went to a street party, and in the house that I went to ultimately at the end, they put on Tarzan. So I actually got to see some of the movie last night. What a weird coincidence, right? And I had already planned on doing the book because, when people request things, if it's doable soon, I try to throw it in right away. So, again, we're not going to go through this book because I want to get to the Batman book that I showed. But I won't draw as much over this. But again, it's just soak in these shapes, get an idea of what this book looks like, and realize that all the form stuff that I'm talking about really, really comes into play. And although they're showing you kind of some nice ideas to create these specific drawings, ultimately you're going to want to understand how an eye socket works, how this nose fits on the monkey's face. And if you had to all of a sudden turn this into an upshot, are you completely lost, or did you understand the original lesson? And I know these lessons in this book aren't thorough enough to really be able to, I think, fully animate these things, unless you did a lot of hard work on your own. And generally people, aren't looking to sort of discover that much on their own, sadly. I get it, though. You feel like you want to learn it right, so you would rather err on the side of caution and have an example to sort of like memorize and then kind of work out from there. So you can definitely do that, whereas like you learn this pose pretty good, and then try to animate it yourself. Maybe take it 4 seconds past this pose, where like if this thing started to walk, where would the arms go next? That kind of thing. If you draw a hand, can you do 3 stages of it clenching into a fist? Really, really good stuff to try to work on and put into your wheelhouse. Again, lots of circles and spheres and shapes on top of that spherical head. I showed an example of this kind of shape and how you have to place it on a sphere. That this side will be longer than this side, because what happens is foreshortening starts to happen as things curve in space, because again, this is a round object like a planet, and you start to see less detail as you get on this side of the thing, although it's still clear because it's animated. But the sizes start to change. You need to be aware of that. That's a great pose right there, actually. A lot of personality and character into it. And again, what did I talk about in the Hellboy video is that's a curved line, okay? It's not a straight across line. The more straight across lines you put on a figure, you're really not doing yourself any favors, and it's ultimately going to look stiffer, because nothing really on a figure is straight lines, other than fictional representations of it that will kind of ultimately limit you. I mean, like here they showed like the straight line just to drop the eye and ear in place, but I showed that this is the only time that you're going to have sort of like straight lines and a front view. If it's a dead-on shot, you could sort of do that, but it's a more limited thing. It's still something you should know. That's nice. Those eyes are really, really cool. Great angle. Again, all that foreshortening going on with the brow. Longer here, starts to get shorter there. If you probably measure these two eyes, this would be a little bit longer. That starts to get a little smaller because it's going back into space. The arcing lines on the mask of the face there, same deal. That could just as easily be Robin's mask on his face, or if you had to all of a sudden put horns coming out of the head like Hellboy, you know. Remember how they sit? One would be kind of pointing that direction, and then one would be pointing, kind of coming towards us, because they sit on that sphere. So, like I said, this just helps validate, I think, what I'm showing you. That's really nice too. Okay, so the elephant's really, really cool. A lot of shape problems to solve in this. If you were going to draw him, he would be fun, but those ears, whoo. They'll get you. It's in a weird way. It's like a cape. It's got folds and drapes, and you know, at times you're seeing the front, and at times you're seeing side planes of the masses. You know, this is like one sheet of flesh. This is another sheet, but the way that this is, you get to see some of the back, and this you're seeing the side, and it wraps over to the front. I mean, that could easily be a cape draped over someone's shoulder. Same thing here. I mean, they're handling it like drapery. So when you learn this stuff, you know, I've mentioned this before too, sometimes you're learning 2 or 3 things at once and you don't even realize it, and all of a sudden things start to apply to a lot of different drawing scenarios that you might have to deal with. Again, that's kind of like pants, you know, like how folds and the drops that they do. So a lot of this stuff has multiple uses. Man, those are great. Look at that. So cool. Again, those nice cylinders. If you put a wireframe around it, can you see the actual direction that those things are going? Because they will tell you right now, one of the horns is actually going a different direction than the other because they're on the, you know, like this is curving up, and then here, oops, sorry, it's going back into the form, and then this is curving outward, and then it starts to come back in, you know, and this is honestly a top plane. You're actually seeing the top of that because it's curving. It's going towards us, it's going away from us, and then it's slightly curving back. You can kind of see it more there. Do you see the shape? Like, it's like going there. You can really see it more extreme. But yeah, if you don't feel that, or if you can't see that, and again, drawings sometimes create a lot of optical illusions. This is great too, man. If you got real good at all these animals in this book, you would walk away with a lot of stuff that would really help you solve, man, just hundreds of drawing problems. That is tricky to draw. And it almost has a very stylized, almost abstract kind of feel to it. But bottom line, you know, it's a little wonky, honestly, but still really, really tough angle and tough shapes on that cheetah's cranium, you know. Really cool though. And again, you know, we were talking about teeth inside of the sort of horseshoe shape of the jaw. You can see there, you know, you start to see the inside plane, and then this, because it's a top view, you're only seeing really the teeth sticking out, whereas here you could possibly see the gum line more. This is great. Beautiful, beautiful. I love the arc of the shoulder blades here. This is just killer, man. There's tension in that pose, and man, the thing looks like it's ready to go. You know, we'll get into sort of drawing cues that create that. So it's a combination of shorter lines that are more, well, see here, look, powerful areas, shoulder and hind legs. Yeah, it's funny because I always refer to them as power lines. You know, it's the real compositional strength of it, and then everything else sort of helps get you there. It's interesting when they color it and ink it, how distorted it looks, but anyway. Pause. It's another like wedge. It's a wedge with a cylinder coming down to it, you know. Cylinder here. Theoretically, it's kind of a wedge shape that sits there. I'm looking through my phone doing it, but it's kind of like a wedge is right there, like that. Then another wedge drops down. And you'd see the top plane of that. And you'd also see the side plane and that. And then you have another wedge that comes out this way. So, in really, really simple forms. And that's actually 3-point perspective, believe it or not. I'm going to do it just as 2, but that's actually coming at you more like this. So again, what are you learning? You're learning multiple things at once. If you really get the feel of that and start to know the form, that's a slightly exaggerated version of it, but yeah, I mean, it's actually coming out like this, and it's not just because of the width of the toes, but I can feel it here pulling down to a vanishing point too, you know, then it's just more shallow. So anyway, but yeah, that's 3-point perspective, yo. You're drawing a paw. You're learning other things because your buddy Rich, he's keying you in on what to look for and what to see. It's interesting here. They talk about the lips on her and the style guide that they use, where it's like bottom lip is a little thicker, but her lips overall are narrow. The shapes of the eyes, you know, a bunch of no shapes for the eyes and a yes shape, and her nose. Really, even if you look at it a front view, there's always a side view, like it favors one side. So you can see they kind of indicated like that, even though it's not really a dead-on shot, but even there, you see, it's like, but she's got her head turned just the tiniest bit. It might be 1/8 of an inch, but you start to lose that front view really, really fast. So nice figure, some really, you know, interesting drapery on her dress. That jewels, more wedges, and okay, then all right. So we're at 17 minutes. I'm just gonna finish this book up, and then, you know, look, once you get really good at drawing figures, at some point they're gonna interact, and then all of a sudden you've got a whole new set of complexities to navigate. But if your forms are strong and you take your time laying it out, you should be okay. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make sure you're okay. You're okay with the challenges that are becoming you, because rarely in any kind of comic, at least, are you only going to be drawing one character that's always sort of doing something on their own. I mean, at some point people interact, and then you got double trouble. Oh, this guy's really cool. So yeah, a lot of bang for your buck in this book for like $9. I would definitely recommend this, and you know, look out for the things that I kind of told you to look out for, and realize that there are more steps that you kind of need to really fully learn this stuff, but still well worth the money, and you're going to get a lot out of it. And I'll watch this video back a few times and kind of soak it in myself and see. When I'm shooting the video, a lot of times I don't get to enjoy the educational value as much, because I'm looking through a phone and I'm trying to make sure the book, you know, doesn't fall off the desk and all that. So there you go. Congratulations, you've done well in your quest to recreate the magic of Tarzan on paper. Thank you, guys. All right, so let's do Batman. I don't think we'll get through this whole book, but we'll definitely get going on. I'm actually very, very curious. I haven't looked at this thing in a long time, to see what how they problem solve like Batman's face in particular. And again, this is kind of based on more of a Bruce Timm thing, so we're gonna focus on the heads mostly. So, hey, look, what do they start with? A bunch of shapes, circles. Oh, and look, you guys remember that from any of my videos? I think you might. But these are more important than circles, is ovals, and ovals in perspective. And again, the reason that circle ends up being 3D is because they've lit it. It's black and they put that little spotlight on it. And again, perspective. Boom. I showed you guys all this stuff. I set you up for victory. Cylinders. What does Richie call them? He calls them spheres when he's not paying attention. But, oh, and look, I showed you this too. I could have drawn this book myself, maybe. No. I'm hoping I can learn something from this book, honestly. Like I said, it's one of the reasons I broke these out is, you know, proportions. That's really, really big for me because I'm so used to inking. A lot of times my drawings are set up for me, and proportions are so important. Meaning, you know, the size relationships of everything, and also when you start dealing with space and things coming in and out of perspective, you know, the size relationships actually change, but still need to be consistent within the rules of proportions. Okay, so they don't really. Again, this is very flat. They're not showing you that the ears are actually 3D shapes, so still nice. I like the jaw placement and that, but those ears are not going to do you any good when you start moving the character around, other than you're going to have a super, like, because to me those are fins that sit on his head and have there's a mass to them, or you know what I mean, like it's all well and good if you're always going to black them out, but you know, the reality is you're really dealing with a shape that's more like that, and if you have to start turning it and then lighting it, can get pretty complicated. But you know, again, this is sort of like the animated style, which isn't bad by any means. I actually love it. But yeah, and see, and they're not dealing with all the planes on the mask, because it's like, so this is the eye socket, but the thing is the mask actually creates a whole nother form that's right there. There's a ridge there. There's a ridge that goes across here. There's a ridge that goes across here. There's a side plane of the head. Like there's none of that. But again, you know, for an $8 or $9 book, what are you gonna do? Some cool expressions. Worth maybe running through and trying to get some of them down. Maybe, I don't know. I wouldn't get too hung up on copying stuff like that. I think in general it's just better to sort of know the rules of what a face does. Again, very flat. This stuff is not going to do you any good. That's better. I guess ultimately my goal is just to keep people away from grinding this stuff into their head, because it's just, like, I mean, so what do you do if you have a character standing right here next to him? At that point, it's at the very least it's 1 point perspective, which means all your shapes are you're gonna have to start showing side planes. This doesn't exist in anything other than fictional representations of drawing. And again, I know it's comics, but if you have 7 characters all standing side to side, side by side, they're not all in the front view, and it can look weird and not work. So just something to be aware of. This is nice, you know. That's cool. I like that figure a lot. At this point, I would actually say that the Disney books are a little stronger than this. This isn't bad, but you know, I think the best thing that you get is it just gives you an awareness of this stuff. I mean, yeah, there's just not a lot of detail to really pull from. So this is nice. I was like that cape thing. This is a cool pose. It's not super dynamic, all things considered, though. I mean, they got a little brave, like this is going away from you, which is cool. So the cylinders are going back into space, and these cylinders are coming towards you, and the cross over the body is good. Again, that's pretty flat. The problem is like the artist that did this drawing is actually really good, so they make it work. But you know, your version of this, chances are, is going to be a lot more stiff than theirs, and so something that just works and then is emulated generally is less than the original. You know, he's got everything is going for it. I think where he really sells the dynamic of the pose is this up here is super like has depth to it. They're getting closer together. The angle of them, this shape, all really sell the pose. You know, but this is not really correct. I mean, I guess if he's looking down at you, but it's like I said, it's teetering on not working. But he's got enough there that reads properly that it does. But this is good, and also the R being in perspective and the Robin signal works. But he's got some nice like this. I don't know why these shapes are actually kind of curving that way, because the form would go like that, but you know, the reality behind these books is this is a gig for someone. They hire someone, they go draw Commissioner Gordon and show like 5 steps, and they knock it out, and some art director approves it, and you know, they might have corrections, and you know, you have to understand that at the end of the day, this is just a job for someone, and not trying to be salty. I'm just telling you the truth. So it's like, when it's good enough, it'll get printed, and doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best drawing book versus small palm. These are nice. I like the hands. It's different. That's cool. Probably tough to draw. This in particular, to draw real well is can be challenging. It's a very simple version. Oh, and back row. I love back row. This is really nice. It's cute. Very simple cape. I mean, again, that isn't going to get you very far in a lot of drawings. You know, Catwoman. This is nice. It's a nice book. Coupled with those Disney books, I think you know, like if you use the Disney books first and then came to this, you could pull out all the good stuff, and then kind of you would have a good eye for what probably isn't gonna, again, take you too far past these. Because I mean, look, I don't know very many artists that start drawings like this and then do this. You know, most would start with something more similar to this without a lot of the understructure. But again, you need to feel those forms first. But this is a tough way to create a pose. I mean, you've kind of got the gesture line, but you're not thinking about the ground plane and like what sort of space the character is standing in. You look, as you get better, you can come back and watch these videos and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I just like starting a figure like that, you're just sort of, it's just floating in space. I would say you'd be better off starting with a gesture like this middle one, and also maybe even kind of Greeking in a ground plane, because they're showing this as like a true side view, which again, I mean, the building is perfectly like just flat. Background is flat. I mean, at the point where you're here, you should be seeing a side plane of this. It's stylistic representation, so I'll let it go. But you know, like, look at the gun. This is better. I mean, the lesson in this, honestly, Mr. Freeze, is that shot of the gun right there is what they should have really kind of focused on. And then, because he's a really cool drawing problem. He's got those really nice, like donut, I think they're called a torus shape, kind of like on his arms. Another one on his belt that's flat, or, you know, like in a different perspective. The other one's on the other arm. He's got him on his legs. You know, the second you start to see this guy from a top view, you're going to start seeing these kind of more in this shape, you know, like where you would see more of the top plane here. So these books are for entertainment too, you know what I mean? That's cool. Again, lots of geometric basics here. That's really cool. I like that a lot. Really nice. That's cool. The Riddler. Joker. There you go. Finally, they're turning some shapes in space. Again, for people that don't know what I'm talking about with the ground plane, I'll kind of sketch it into this drawing so you can see it. So, I just got to move the book a little bit. I just want to make sure that you understand why I say that. Like when you draw something like this and then try to like peg it into a ground plane, it's tricky. So, I need to look at the paper. I was trying to look through the phone and do it, but... So the perspective, the vanishing point on this in theory would be about right here. So this is your eye level and this is the horizon. So you're standing about here. So everything above here is an upshot, meaning his torso is actually like this. And then if you look, actually his hips are still are above us, so you wouldn't see the top plane, but okay. I wish that they showed a bit more of this kind of stuff. It would really help people be able to do more drawings after they learn this. But limited in space, I get it. Ah, here we go, perspective. But you don't need to worry about this because you're already learning it with the figures. That's what I'm saying is like, I'll teach you the fundamentals of this and show you how simple it is. Again, I'm already tricking all of you into learning it based on the figure drawing stuff that I'm doing. I'm just not talking about it through a full stroke of like where it is, but you'll see. I have a strategy. There you go. Very cool. Again, challenging stuff, you know. This is the stuff that they need to really focus on with the figures more. And when I say challenging, I don't want it to intimidate you. What I'm saying is it's like you need to lock it in. When you lock it in, it's a real important thing that will help you. There you go. Again, now they're showing you the eye level. Eye levels here. Everything above this is above this. Again, just like I just showed you, and then this starts to go down. So you start to see the top planes of this more. But the thing is they didn't show you the cylinder here. It's a big misstep. Is these cylinders that are here are now like that. You're seeing, like, even though you can't see it, it's like that, and the curves start to, I need to do it where I'm looking at the paper, start to reduce in size because it's the going down. Like, I'll make it more extreme, but this is what's going on with that leg at this point, is it's heading down and it's getting smaller. This one's a little bit more kind of a side view, but at the same time it's a little artistically represented. Like, you can kind of fudge stuff when you got a good eye for things, but again, because they don't put any detail on the boot, you don't have to deal with actually that. And also you just sometimes want to feel that space, that form, you know. You don't necessarily have to indicate it. This is really nice. I wish they had a little bit more of this kind of stuff, because this will help you get drawing good. But again, they needed to show a little bit more of this on this, because I mean, I guess it's basically going straight out sideways, but I don't know. It would have been better to maybe have it going back in space a little bit, or if they did that, at least grid it out a little. This is okay. It's not really a very useful pose. Bet you never knew drawing was going to be this easy. Well, there you go. They're telling you right away it's easy. Look at that. Look how easy that is. Just outline stuff. Oh, but it's 1-point perspective, so there needs to be side planes. Do you see the side planes? This is what I just talked about, is if you put a character in the center of this, the second you put a second character here, you're starting to see side planes. So 1-point perspective will start to indicate that you need to show these real quickly. I mean, and even if you have a character step away from the vanishing point just the tiniest bit, you start to see it from a different angle. So that's nice. I always love the Batman animated series. That's cool. That's cool. That's really cool. Well, that would be tricky, tricky, tricky. But we'll get to all this stuff. We'll do simple examples that'll build up to some fun, kind of more complicated drawing things. And the thing is if you could draw this, 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 and this out of your head, and I don't mean like memorize these and copy them, but if you had this information in your head, you're pretty much free to draw whatever you want in terms of like architecture. You know, you would probably be able to problem solve all the things that you need to do. Isn't that cool? In 4 drawings, you could get a good handle on a lot of stuff, but you need to know the path. All right. I hope that was super fun and informative. And next week we'll get back to just entertainment books. But again, you know, we're transitioning the channel into like penciling, so I thought, you know, this is kind of what we're looking at, and they're still entertaining, and there's great art in these books. So you know, the Disney ones are strong. That Batman book is okay. Both could use a little more information, but I would say that these break it down a little bit better and also have more dynamic stuff. And then this is good, but it's kind of more. You'd be better off understanding this and going to this, and then pulling out the things that you didn't feel that you got from this. Okay, all right. Have a great day, and I hope you have a super fun Sunday.